This is a reading of Out of the Dust, Spring 1935, Part 2. Help from Uncle Sam. The government is lending us money to keep the farm going. Money to buy seed, feed loans for our cow, for our mule, for the chicken still alive and the hog, as well as a little bit of feed for us. My father was worried about paying back because of what Ma had said. But Mrs. Love, the lady from FERA, assured him he didn't need to pay a single cent until the crops came in. And if the crops never came, then he wouldn't pay a thing. So my father said, okay, anything to keep going. He put the paperwork on the shelf beside Ma's book of poetry and the invitation from Aunt Ellis. He just keeps that invitation from her, glowering down at me from the shelf above the piano. April 1935. Let down. I was invited to graduation to play the piano. I couldn't play. It had been too long. My hands wouldn't work. I just sat on the piano bench staring down at the keys. Everyone waited. When the silence went on so long, folks started to whisper. Arlie Wanderdale lowered his head, and Miss Friedlander started to cry. I don't know. I let them down? I didn't cry, too stubborn. I got up and walked off the stage. I thought maybe if my father ever went to Doc Rice to do something about the spots on his skin, Doc could check my hands too, tell me what to do about them. But my father isn't going to Doc Rice. And now I think we're both turning to dust. May 1935. Hope. It started out as snow. Oh, big flakes floating softly, catching on my sweater, lacy on the edges of my sleeves. Snow covered the dust, softened the fences, soothed the parched lips of the land. And then it changed, halfway between snow and rain, sleet, glazing the earth, until at last it slipped into rain, light as mist. It was the kindest kind of rain that fell, soft and then a little heavier, helping along what had already fallen into the hard pan earth until it rained steady as a good friend who walks beside you, not getting in your way, staying with you through a hard time. And because the rain came so patient and slow at first and built up strength as the earth remembered how to yield, instead of washing off, the water slid into the dying ground and softened its stubborn pride and eased it back toward life. And then, just when we thought it would end after 3 such gentle days, the rain came slamming down, tons of it, soaking into the ready earth, to the primed and greedy earth, and soaking deep. It kept coming, thunder booming, lightning, kicking, dancing from the heavens down to the prairie, and my father danced with it, dancing outside in the drenching night, with the gutters racing, with the earth puddled and pleased, with my father's near-finished pond filling. When the rain stopped, my father splashed out to the barn and spent 2 days and 2 nights cleaning dust out of his tractor until he got it running again. In the dark, headlights shining, he idled toward the freshened fields, certain the grass would grow again, certain the weeds would grow again, certain the wheat would grow again too. May 1935. The rain's gift. The rain has brought back some grass, and the ranchers have put away the feed cake and sent their cattle out to graze. Joe de la Flor is singing in his saddle again. May 1935. Hope smothered. While I washed up dinner dishes in the pan, the wind came from the west, bringing dust. I had just stripped all the gummed tape from the windows. Now I've got dust all over the clean dishes. I can hardly make myself get started cleaning again. Mrs. Love is taking applications for boys to do CCC work. Any boy between 18 and 28 can join. I'm too young and the wrong sex, but what I wouldn't give to be working for the CCC somewhere far from here, out of the dust. May 1935. Sunday afternoon at the Amarillo Hotel. Everybody gathered at the Joyce City Hardware and Furniture Company on Sunday to hear Mad Dog Craddock sing on WDAG from the Amarillo Hotel. They hooked up speakers, and the sweet sounds of Mad Dog's voice filled the creaky aisles. Arlie Wanderdale was in Amarillo with Mad Dog, singing and playing the piano, and the Black Mesa boys were there too. I ached for not being there with them. But there was nothing more most folks in Joyce City wanted to do than spend a half hour leaning on counters, sitting on stairs, resting in chairs, staring at the hardware and the tableware, listening to hometown boys making big-time music on the radio. They kept time in their aisles, hooting after each number. And when Mad Dog finished his last song, they sent the dust swirling, cheering and whooping, patting each other on the back, as if they'd been featured on WDAG themselves. I tried cheering for Mad Dog with everyone else, but my throat felt like a trap had snapped down on it. That Mad Dog, he didn't have a thing to worry about. He sang good, all right. He'll go as far as he wants. May 1935. Baby. Funny thing about babies, Ma died having one. The Lindberghs said good night to one and lost it, and somebody last Saturday decided to give one away. Reverend Bingham says that Harley Madden was sweeping the dust out of church, shining things up for Sunday service, when he swept himself up to a package on the north front steps. He knelt, studying the parcel, and called to Reverend Bingham, who came right by and opened the package up. It held a living baby. Reverend Bingham took it to Doc Rice. Doc checked it, said it was fine, only small, less than a 5-pound sack of sugar and a little cold from spending time on the north front steps. But Mrs. Bingham and the Reverend warmed that baby with blankets and sugar water and tender talk, and the whole of Joyce City came forward with gifts. I asked my father if we could adopt it, but he said, we stood about as much chance of getting that baby as the wheat stood of growing, since we couldn't give the baby anything, not even a ma. Then he looked at me, sorry as dust, and to make up for it, he pulled out a box with the rest of the clothes Ma had made for our new baby and told me to drop them by the church if I wanted. I found the dimes Ma been saving, my earnings from the piano, inside an envelope in the box of baby Franklin's nighties. She had kept those dimes to send me to Panhandle A&M to study music. No point now. I sat at her piano for a long time after I got back from the church, imagining a song for my little brother buried in my mother's arms on a knoll overlooking the banks of the Beaver, imagining a song for the Lindbergh baby stiff in the woods, imagining a song for this new baby who would not be my father's son. May 1935. Old bones. Once dinosaurs roamed in Cimarron County, bones showing in the green shale, ribs the size of plow blades, hip bones like crank phones, and legs running like fence rails down to a giant foot. A chill shoots up my spine, imagining a dinosaur slogging out of an Oklahoma sea with turtles swimming around its legs. I can see it sunning itself on the swampy banks, beyond it a forest of ferns. It's almost easy to imagine, gazing out from our house at the dust-crushed fields, easy to imagine filling in all the emptiness with green. Easy to imagine such a beast, brushing an itchy rump against our barn. But all that remains of it is bone, broken and turned to stone, trapped in the hillside. This once upon a time real live dinosaur who lived and fed and roamed like a ridiculous long-necked cow and then fell down and died. I think for a moment of Joe de la Fleur herding Brontosaurus instead of cattle, and I smile. I tell my father, let's go to the site and watch the men chip away with ice picks. Let's see how they plaster the bones, please, before they ship the whole thing to Norman. I am thinking that a dinosaur is getting out of Joyce City 100 million years too late to appreciate the trip, and that I ought to get out of town before my own bones turn to stone. But I keep my thoughts to myself. My father thinks a while, rubbing that spot on his neck. He looks out the window, out across the field, toward the knoll where Ma and the baby lie. It's best to let the dead rest, he said, and we stay home. June 1935.